And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Happy Thursday to everybody. Yeah, we were just, I was saying how this song reminds me of high school, and I'm sure Christian's in there being like, God, how old is this guy?
Yeah. I was born the year this came out. No, you probably weren't even alive
you
when this song
weren't
came
even alive,
out.
no.
This song predates myself.
What, 4 or 5 years? That's crazy.
Yeah,
I remember
right.
this music video. I mean, I remember the Blink wave. You know, I remember that era of music coming out, but Blink-182 certainly pioneered it. Or played a big role in pioneering.
You know, I happen to like this kind of music, but it's like when people talked about like Led Zeppelin or something when we were kids. Like, oh, this song reminds me of high school. How old are you?
Yeah.
My Atlanta.
Yep.
So I'm that age.
Congrats.
Thank you. Where the lead singer has morphed into some sort of alien weirdo? Isn't that the thing? Well,
he was right. Because he was like, there's UFOs. And everyone was like, you're insane. And then the Pentagon came out and was like, yeah, there's lots of them. We have no idea what they are. Tom DeLonge, is that his name?
He himself is not an alien, for clarification.
Yeah.
Might be. I don't know.
Yeah, he might be. Maybe that's how he knows about it.
I watched Men in Black not that long ago.
Sure.
My kids did not really care for it all that much.
No? Oh, my kids really liked it.
And frankly, I didn't like it all that much going back and watching it again.
The new one,
but I'm not
the original?
I'm not a Will Smith person.
Oh, I mean, he's soured. It's hard to relay. Even Christian probably wouldn't recognize this. How cool Will Smith was when that movie came out. Will Smith was the coolest person on the planet.
And he had just done another Alien movie, which was a big hit, Independence Day.
Was good.
So it kind of rode on the back of that, even though it's a different movie. And
he had made the jump from funny high school, even though I'm sure he was 21 years old when he was doing Fresh Prince, to like cool adult.
But he had been a rapper before that.
Right. He seemed like he had it all. And he has since gone very strange.
Or probably was strange all along.
Probably was, yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't a huge Will Smith. I wasn't that into the show.
Sure.
I just wasn't. And then I saw Wild Wild West, and I thought to myself, I am never going to see another movie that this man
the first movie I ever walked out of in my life.
Rough.
It's not good.
But again, do you remember what it was like to be Christian's age and hear people talk about movies from the 60s?
Uh-huh. Yeah, of course.
God, will you geezers move on?
Yeah.
That's what's going through his brain right now.
Right. Wild Wild West. Cool. 1,000 years ago.
You want a warm glass of milk before I tuck you in, Grandpa?
Yeah, right.
Is it a silent film or was that a talkie by that point?
They had talkies. But again, you know what I remember from my childhood?
Christian Wild Wild West. There was a guy actually who sat in the theater and played the piano as the soundtrack. It's the only way you could get music those days.
I do remember black and white TVs from my childhood.
We absolutely had one.
Yeah.
Because there was what the cheap old TV was your parents were just still hanging on to.
It was.
Yeah, because the big tube televisions were $700, I'm sure.
It ended up in the basement where my dad had projects but didn't want to turn off the game.
The clicky knob.
Right.
Yep.
I do remember telephones with the finger turn thing.
Of course.
I don't know what you call that.
Rotary.
The rotary phone.
Yep.
My buddy Jason had one.
The guys from Blink-182 had them. That's the thing. They also used them. So they're familiar with what you're talking about.
I've always said, and then we can get serious, that I would, if I could rewind time to go back to you had to be home to get a phone call, I think I would.
Yeah.
And not have it so accessible, I think I would.
My son picks up the phone. He just holds it to his ear. He doesn't say hello. How is this possible? What are you doing? She's just like, well, it stopped ringing, so somebody knows I've picked up. That's not good enough. There's a politeness that has to come with it. You have to say hello.
That's funny.
But he doesn't. I don't know if his friends do either. They just start talking. Anyways.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
That's
It's a real disconnect.
That's hilarious. All right, Ben. Well, hey, the conference, by the way, there's a quick adjustment. I should say this before we get started. There's an adjustment to our normal Thursday routine, Ben. Nick Olczyk, our buddy, is going to be with us at 10:30.
Okay.
As opposed to 11 o'clock. So do we want to make a quick decision? Do we want to do top 3 at 11? Okay. So
11.
there you go. There's a quick programming note for you.
Great.
We'll do top 3 coming up at 11 o'clock. Of course, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers, which John from J. Brooks, the world-famous celebrity, was in our building.
It's wonderful.
He's down there with David James.
That's probably why they sprayed the building down yesterday.
Yeah,
Cleaned
David,
it up.
with David and John doing a commercial. The security alone, you can't even get to that wing of the building.
I thought the governor was here.
Seriously, we've seen John Huntsman in the hallway. He didn't have as much security.
No, we did not.
Bananas. Okay, Ben. The BYU Cincinnati game is not a must-win game.
Okay.
It is not.
All right.
Mathematically speaking, all that stuff, it is not
Because
a must-win
Cincinnati lost to Arizona.
for BYU. That said, unbelievably important game for the league. Not just for BYU, of course, because if they win this, they're going to beat Central Florida and into the conference title game, no problem.
With one loss.
With one loss.
Yeah.
And then, the playoff is stupid, and you leave your fate in their hands at that point, right? If they lose to Cincinnati, Utah, Cincinnati, Arizona State are all alive to go to the conference title. And we'd have to look through exactly the specific tiebreakers to tell you who's in the catbird seat. I think it's Arizona State.
Really?
But
over Utah.
Maybe not. Don't quote me.
Okay.
That could be fake
Okay.
news.
Okay.
It's a little complex. Our guy Josh Furlong has done a good job hashing out those types of scenarios. But I mean, that's how big's the league? Did we decide 16? I mean, that's
72.
That's 30% of the league or whatever. That is going to be glued to BYU Cincinnati because it has that big of ramification for the entire league, which is pretty cool.
Very.
And just another reminder that BYU being in a league is so much better. I mean, for the sports health.
For sure.
I know Ute fans loved dragging the Cougs for being independent. And while the Utes were in the Pac-12. And yeah, I get it. You're going to do that. It's a rivalry. It's not my first day. But having BYU in a league makes it so much better for the health of the sports community. Because look, Ute fans can cheer against BYU wholeheartedly against Cincinnati and have every right to do so because the outcome of that game directly impacts your team. And how fun is that to have shared investment? One thing with independence is like there was no shared investment. BYU was the villain in the Mountain West and the WAC, Ben. But guess what? The whole league cared about BYU. Utah was the spoiler in the Pac-12. What was cool about it was the whole league cared.
Yeah.
Even when they were kind of 4-8, I remember when BYU upset Stanford at home, right? And Stanford was top 5, I think. I can't remember exactly what it was. And it was this huge turning point moment for the Utah football program. And all of a sudden they're creeping on all these big teams, and then they're upsetting USC and all this stuff, right? The whole league cared. It mattered. They tuned into Utah football over the weekend because it mattered if they upset Washington or whatever the case may be. And then they rattled off a couple of division titles and then go to the Rose Bowl. We know the story. Having BYU not only in a league improves the conversation.
Of course.
But in the same league as Utah and having it be a relevant league is awesome. It is awesome. It's great. The sports, in my opinion, the sports health of this community is better than it was when they were separate with BYU and Independence.
I've always said, finally, Utah has a reason to root against BYU.
There's actually a reason.
No, there really is a reason. Yeah, absolutely. You want them to lose. You want them to lose to Cincinnati, you jump them.
And you were weirdly conflicted against Texas Tech because it would actually have been better if BYU had beaten Texas Tech. And so it was this weird, but you're watching it. And then now you can wholeheartedly cheer for Cincinnati to beat BYU because it actually directly impacts your team.
Well, don't get your hopes up of Cincinnati beating BYU. I don't think that's going to happen, though. It's a big game for Cincinnati. They know they're at home, and this is going to be their last huge game. And if they want to finish the season ranked, I don't think They really have a serious chance of going to the conference title game, but they would have to win to keep those hopes alive if they're even still eligible. Sure, it's a big game, and they're going to be ready for it.
Now, I actually think how they beat Cincinnati is entirely relevant.
Okay.
I mean, obviously they have to win. I'm not going to come here and say, well, BYU's got to win. It's how they win matters, in my opinion. And to get back to the Kalani cut we played earlier in the week, and we don't need to play it now, but he essentially said, let the bear loose. Let him throw it. What they did against TCU is they trusted him not to make mistakes and put in a game plan that opened it up for him. The reason they lost to Texas Tech is because they did not do that, in my opinion. And maybe the Bear would have lost him the game against Texas Tech, maybe not, but I don't think they really found out because they didn't let it happen.
Yeah.
If they match up against Texas Tech again in the conference title game, that is the way that they are going to beat Texas Tech.
Opening it up,
letting the Bear make throws to really talented guys. JoJo is back. They've got 2 bona fide on-the-season dudes on the outside. And then throw in JoJo wherever you will. They've got a really good tight end. They've got a running back, although that's pretty thin. They've got an O-line that's punching above its weight. They need to let the Bear eat against Cincinnati. If nothing else, to give the coaches confidence to draw up the game plan necessary to beat Texas Tech.
Well, they shouldn't be needing more confidence after what we've already seen from Bear.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think they've been slow, and understandably slow. I think they've been slow to open up the throttle. Like, you know what I mean? I get it. But part of the BYU doesn't blow teams out, part of the get in a hole and have to come back, all that I think is directly related to trust in the quarterback.
Do you think that's still the narrative around BYU?
Yes.
Especially inside those doors?
Because I heard Hans breaking down his numbers the other day, and his numbers aren't great. I'll give me a second. I'll bring them up.
You're talking about Bear.
I'm talking about Bear on the season.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is on the season doesn't really matter. It's a true freshman, and I'm going to break it down the same way I am with any young player. I'm going to look at it in game chunks. And while the Texas Tech game was dreadful for everybody involved at BYU, you look at their last 2 games and what Bear Bachmeier's been able to do. We'll go back to Iowa State, which is obviously his best game of the season so far. He had 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 22 of 35. He threw the ball 35 times. And then against TCU, he threw it 33 times and had 296 yards.
All right. No, I'm glad you brought up this comparison. Can you let's talk about the Iowa State game for a second. Rattle off those stats again.
22 of 35, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Now remind me what happened in that game.
LJ Martin got hurt in the first half.
How the game went, not a detail. How did the game go?
They were down at halftime. They had to come back.
So they had to let the Bear eat. They didn't have another option. That wasn't a game plan thing. TCU then rattle off those stats.
TCU, sorry, 1 second. 23 of 33, 296 yards, 1 touchdown.
And Kalani told us that's because they game planned to open it up. I think, now here's where my theory comes in. I think he diagnosed the problem after Texas Tech. And he said, this guy's good enough that we can let him go win games. And we shouldn't be all that scared of him losing games for us. He's come back and beat Arizona in the monsoon. He threw him back in against Iowa State. They should have game planned for him to be aggressive against Texas Tech, and they did not. And I think that the game against TCU is a wholehearted adjustment. So, do they? Because let me get to my point about Hansen, not to disagree with him, but when he's rattling off the season stats, 2,177 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 63% completion percentage. Ben, you at this point in the season kind of shrug your shoulders at that, right? I mean, it's not...
In a vacuum, without the context, I understand, sure.
Like, we watched Tanner Mangum throw for 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you kind of shrug your shoulders at that. But remember, at least half of the season, they've kept an entire lid on that guy. And honestly, through most of conference, they've been hesitant to open it up. And again, I completely understand. You're playing a freshman. I mean, do you think Coach Ludd was really going to open it up last year with the freshman quarterback?
Right. No, of course not.
No, they just don't lose it. And I thought that was going to be this type of season for Bachmeier, and he's capable of more than that. Obviously capable of more than that. But they're not going to beat Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to beat them unless they let him throw it all over them. They're just not. They're not going to be able to run against Texas Tech. They're going to have to beat them a different way. And I think they've got to give him confidence. And I think that matters against Cincinnati. Give the quarterback confidence, opening up the offense, and beat a decent team in Cincinnati. I think that matters.
Bears' last 6 games, so that's half the season. He's got 1,480 yards. This includes, obviously, the Texas Tech debacle. He's averaging 246 passing yards per game. He's got 6 touchdowns, and he has 7 touchdowns through the air and 4 interceptions. So as he has opened it up a little bit more.
Well, he did throw an interception through the first 5 games of the year.
Right, all of his interceptions have come since then, when they have opened it up, to your point. I mean, that is when they started needing him to throw the ball a little bit more. And the game I'm starting with is West Virginia, because I actually thought BYU didn't play particularly well against West Virginia, and he was the best player on the field. And that might have been the first time we have seen that. And he scored 38 points in a game when they allowed West Virginia to score 24. So they did need him to open it up a little bit there. I thought that was a turning point in the season for how Bear produced, even though, his passing attempts weren't necessarily up. But he went from 180 yards the week before to 350 yards that week. So I thought that's when everything changed for him. And even then, I guess to your point, 250 yards isn't exactly blow your mind numbers, but it does include a couple of games like Utah, which was just knockdown, drag out. Texas Tech the same way.
I would guess that they said the conservative don't let the Bears screw it up out like strategy worked against Utah. I bet they would tell you that the defense was good enough to keep them in the game, let Utah make a couple of mistakes, and you capitalize just enough to win. I think they would tell you that it worked against Utah, so go with it against Texas Tech. But different circumstances, different defenses.
And I don't want to ignore that over those 6 games, he's also averaging 52 rushing yards. So he's right at 300 yards per game, basically, with the 2. And he has 6 touchdowns on the ground.
I don't want to say I don't care, but I kind of don't care. I mean, it has been a weapon and effective.
That's not going to be good enough against Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's been a thing for him, and BYU certainly used it to keep the chains moving. I'm not trying to disregard its import to the offense entirely, but I don't think they beat – do you think they beat Texas Tech if the Bear had 100 yards on the ground in the conference title game? I don't think so. I don't think that's how they do it. Plus, I don't think it's possible. They shut down his run. That was like one of the first key things that Texas Tech did.
Obviously, Texas Tech is not infallible. They lost to Arizona State. I don't think BYU is going to beat Texas Tech this year. And not to put the cart before the horse, but it does bring us back to the conversation of BYU Cincinnati this weekend does have value for BYU, especially depending on how they beat Cincinnati.
I think they can beat Texas Tech.
Certainly they can. Of course, they're a good team. They certainly can. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they can.
Get yourself in the game and then give yourself the best chance to win. And I think that putting it in the hands of the freshmen, I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's going to be their best chance to win.
I get it. I don't think it's going to happen. That's still a month away, so I'm not terribly concerned about it. I guess it's 3 weeks away now or whatever, whenever they would play it. But to the point where BYU, if they can't beat Texas Tech, needs to look as impressive as possible down the stretch, which is basically the only reason why Utah has the ranking that they have. Why Utah's sitting at 12 is because they're not just beating teams, they're trouncing teams. And with the exception of the 2 top 11 teams they've played, they've basically destroyed everybody. There are not a lot of close games for Utah fans this year outside of BYU and entering the fourth quarter against Texas Tech. So that's not been a hard season for Utah fans to watch. BYU has not had that. BYU has not trounced most teams until 2 of the last 3 weeks when they did crush Iowa State and then they did crush TCU. So can you keep that going? Can you crush Cincinnati on the road, who's a borderline top 25 team, and beat them by 25 points?
I don't think any of that matters, and I don't think that the committee is going to pick Utah over BYU if they're both 2 lost teams. But the truth is that only one Big 12 team's getting in.
Well, that's the thing. I don't care about that.
So the way for BYU to get in is to beat Texas Tech in the conference title game, because I don't think the dog and pony show isn't going to break their way.
Probably not.
So the blow out this team and blow out that team, and can Utah jump them? The answer is no to all of the above. It would have to be a complete cluster in the other leagues for the Big 12 to get more teams in. It just that's how it is.
Now, while Cincinnati is a game that obviously BYU fans are paying attention to this weekend, they're also going to be looking around the rest of the college football playoff rankings and who those teams are playing. And we can just run over it very quickly. This weekend, Alabama, who is ranked number 10, one spot against ahead of BYU, has Eastern Illinois. Obviously, that's just one of those weird late SEC non-conference games that they're going to crush. Notre Dame is taking on Syracuse. That game's at home. You would expect Notre Dame to win that game. The big one is Oklahoma at home against Missouri. That's a huge game. If Oklahoma loses to Missouri, they will fall out of the top 10, and BYU will be sitting there at number 10. And then Oregon does host USC. That's number 7 versus number 15. I don't think we have a good sense of whether or not Oregon's any good.
I'll tell you what, Bert needs to work on the tie-breaking scenarios.
Okay, yeah.
This is like reading the Bible.
I'm sure.
I'm confused already.
Yeah.
It's 10 pages long.
Uh-huh. The Bible's longer, 10 pages long.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to think of something dense. Option, guess what?
This is quick. This is a good read. Just knocked it out.
I was thinking of dense.
Yeah.
And War and Peace seemed like too much of a layup. Okay, the tie-breaking scenarios, it goes from A, being head-to-head competition among the two tied teams, and then it goes alphabetically down. What do you think? What letter do you think coin toss comes in at? At what point do you think we get down to coin toss?
F.
G.
No, G.
You were pretty
ambitious.
The tricky thing is that's just for two teams.
That's
in a
just for
tiebreaker
two
scenario.
teams. Yep, that's
in a
it.
3-team scenario, I don't think the head-to-head matters. I think it leans on strength of schedule.
Well, it's an entire paragraph for multiple teams under just the A scenario. Buckle up, Ben. This is going to be a minute. The records of the 3 or more tied teams will be compared based on winning percentage in games among the tied teams. If all teams involved in the tie did not play each other, but one team defeated all other teams involved in the tie, the team that defeated all other teams in the tie is removed from the tiebreaker, and the remaining teams revert to the beginning of the applicable tiebreaker process.
So the situation there is...
I'm not done. 2 teams or 3 or more team tie. Also, if all teams involved in the tie did not play each other, and no team defeated all other teams involved in the tie, move to the next step in tiebreaker. So that was all A, and we can actually go down to E.
That's a moot point because Texas Tech did play BYU and Utah and did beat them both. And
we're not talking about Texas Tech. We're talking about all the 2-loss teams. That's if Cincinnati beats BYU, this becomes relevant. If BYU wins, it does not.
For who makes the conference championship
For who makes
game.
the conference title game.
Yeah.
So Texas Tech status does not matter.
Yeah.
Unless
BYU is going to beat Cincinnati, so this doesn't matter.
Unless they lose. But if BYU loses to Cincinnati, then all this matters because then you've got Utah, BYU, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and Houston.
Well, thankfully, Cincinnati's atrocious. So BYU's going to steamroll.
Well, we can just fast forward to Monday. Ben, we've got Friday to come.
We can.
Say, dude, I don't. We'll get back to football.
Yeah,
maybe. Coming up, Nick Olczyk is next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's talk a little Mammoth hockey. Joins us on Thursdays. Of course, plays a key role in the television and radio broadcast for the Utah Mammoths. He's our buddy Nick Olczyk. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, Nick.
A key role. Very
Key
nice.
role.
Very nice. Giving me a little added boost of confidence this morning. Thanks, boys. Great to be with you. Great to be back in Salt Lake City after a quick 2-game road trip down in California. And very, very excited to be able to get back to the Delta Center here tonight, considering that's a place where the Utah Mammoth have been very good this season.
Minus the third period against the Sharks, it does not feel like the Utah Mammoth are playing well. Am I wrong about that? And what have you seen that has lent to so many losses lately?
It's been a tough stretch, and you guys know this in other sports. And your great listeners know this from having watched hockey and other sports. It's not the first tough stretch, and it ain't going to be the last. Okay, just to set the scene, just to give a little reality check. Like that's the reality of the 82 game grind, especially this year, where it's such a heavily condensed schedule because of the upcoming Olympic Games. So, with that being said, to me, it's about how you find a way to get through without allowing something to snowball to where you go through a stretch where it's 20 games long. I think this homestand is coming at a really good time, considering that, the Mammoths have struggled more on the road this year than they have at home. But I look at especially the last two games where it's been the fine margins that have been the reasons or a couple of the contributing reasons for the losses. How about in Anaheim? I thought Utah – I thought they played a strong game. I mean, unless I need a new pair of glasses, I thought they played a strong game. And how they pushed the pace when they had the lead in the third period was very encouraging. And then you talk about a small margin where you have a couple of guys get extended as they try to make a play on the puck to get it out along the boards. Anaheim wins the battle. One pass beats a couple of guys, and then it's a 2-on-1 right at the net front, and there's just nothing Karel Vejmelka could have done in that case, as Troy Terry banked it home for the game-tying goal with 4.1 seconds to go, and then Anaheim went on to win in overtime. And in OT, usually it's I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's kind of a crapshoot in overtime. One guy gets caught up the ice, he tries to make a play, he falls, whatever it is, late coming back, and then there's always going to be an odd man rush the other way. So then in San Jose, just felt like it took too long for Utah to get to their game. And notoriously this year, they've been a team that starts really well. They start games on the front foot. They dictate the pace. They force the opposition to adjust to their game. But I think it was a combination of just not shooting enough, wanting to do too much. And when you go through a tough stretch, because this team has some highly skilled players, that's one of the thought processes is do too much. Try to do everybody else's job and yours. And when this team's going good, everybody is, I wouldn't say siloed, but they're doing their job to their very best ability. And with how that game finished, I thought Utah got better as the game went on. They started to shoot more in the third period. They get rewarded as J.J. Peterka came good there in the third period with a pair of goals to tie it. And then in overtime, another small margin, a change that was a bit late from the captain, and J.J. Peterka coming on the ice. But that's one of those strange ones where I don't know if you want to place blame on both guys. You could sit there and say, you got to get off the ice quicker after Clayton Keller had a long shift. And then J.J. Peterka coming on, sometimes you'll see guys not touch that puck, because for those of our newer fans that don't know, it's going to be too many men if the player coming on the ice touches the puck before that same player coming off is still on. So, maybe a case where JJ could have, in the peripheral vision, saw that Keller was not off, and maybe he waits to touch it. But again, it was a bad pass. The play happened very quickly. You're just basing everything off of your reaction. So a long-winded way of saying that I don't think this team is far off from playing their brand of hockey and being more consistent. But lately it has been those fine margins that has been the reason for the results.
All right, Nick, I hope this question makes sense. But I grew up...
I'll be the judge of that. I'll be the judge of that.
All right. I grew up playing baseball, right? And if we were in a slump, or if you were in a slump, you put your hat on sideways or snorted the foul line or something stupid to get out of your slump, Ben grew up a skateboarder. God knows what they do. What do hockey players do to break out of a slump?
We weren't snorting anything. Whoa! Why am I getting a bad rap here?
So what do they do?
Well,
what do they? Is it superstition, or what do you do to get out of a slump?
Yeah. In the experience I've had and being in and around the game since I came out of the womb, sometimes guys are more hard-headed in tough times, and they think that I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing, and eventually I'm going to break out of it, because if I've done X, Y, and Z with my routine for so long. It's gotten me to the National Hockey League. It's gotten me to play in the league for a while. But other guys that maybe have a little more maneuverability in that mindset, sometimes you'll eat something different for pregame meal. I don't know. I've never heard of these guys snorting anything, no matter what it is. But sometimes you drive a little bit of a different way to the rink. Maybe you take a couple of extra turns just to kind of throw things off and maybe come to a little reset. Sometimes when guys are struggling, especially individually, they'll change the color of the tape on their blade. Or maybe they'll switch. I mean, most of these guys are creatures of habit in terms of how they get dressed. But, sometimes you're just looking for any sort of little thing to give you a little boost mentally. And I've heard, I've actually in my past, I've heard of stories where guys will sometimes play a game, drive into the rink, because some of these guys carpool together. Now, this is not a story from Utah; it's a story from way back in the day where they'll play a little game driving to the rink where it's the no stopping game. So if you are the one driving in the carpool and you at all bring the car to a complete standstill, you owe every guy in the car $100. So even if you're approaching a red light, you gotta throw on the brakes a little early. You gotta slowly crawl your way up. But as soon as you put that car at a dead stop, that's where you owe everybody else in the car $100. So just fun little things to try to get back on track. But I'm at morning skate right now, guys. There's hooting and hollering. The guys are in a good mood. They know that they're trying to break out of it and that they're glad to be home. So I don't think anything's super crazy, but sometimes in stretches like this, guys do little things like that to try to kind of come back to equilibrium.
Why are the Mammoth not very good on the power play, and how do you fix that? What makes a good power play?
Yeah, a great power play. You look at all the best in the league. You can look at the likes of the Vegas Golden Knights who have 5 shooting threats and scoring threats on their top unit. You look at a team like Colorado where you've got McKinnon and Makar on one power play. I just think that the best in the league keep the penalty kill very honest, even amidst their pre-scouts. So going into each game, the coach that's in charge of the penalty kill, because you've got the head coach who oversees everything, and then it's one of the assistant coaches that runs the power play and the other that runs the penalty kill. So going into each game, they're coming up with pre-scouts and notes and diagrams as far as what the power play wants to do. Also, what the other team's penalty kill wants to do. So, but when you look at the top power plays in the league, when everybody is a threat or you have multiple threats that are guys that are there to shoot, and you can't, as a defender, you can't sit back and think, okay, that guy's not going to shoot, so I can sit back and play the passing lane and cover the other guys because we know he's not going to shoot. I just think that the best power plays in the league are those where there are multiple threats and everybody is a threat to shoot the puck. And I think lately for Utah, they've had some looks, yes, but they have had a little bit of a tough time, especially in the last couple of games, of getting that sustained pressure in the zone, but then shooting pucks and then recovering them back. I mean, you could pass around the perimeter and the outside until you're blue in the face, but it may be a sexy number at the end of the game showing that you had X amount of zone time on the power play, but if you only had 1 or 2 shots or no shots at all, it was kind of all for naught. So, you got to work hard. And by that, I mean, when you shoot it, you got to be able to be there to recover pucks quickly and win those 50-50 battles because you do have that extra skater out there. So I think more shots, and that's what's going to open up those cross-seam plays, the one-timers to Gunther, the pass from the top from Sergachev to Clayton Keller. I just feel like there's so much skill on this team. There's so much skill on the power play that at times they want to pass the puck into the back of the net. So anytime you're going through a struggle, whether it's a power play, whether it's a guy that's going through a slump, simplify. That's the thing. And that's not to say turn into a robot and don't make plays. It's take what's given, and especially in terms of a power play, when you shoot the puck, you force those penalty killers to have to respect. And then when they respect, they're naturally going to sit back a little bit more, and that's what's going to open up those passing lanes.
Nick, we appreciate you and all of your wisdom. Thank you for coming on with us.
You guys are the best. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Nick.
Back at you, Nick. That's our buddy Nick Olczyk, the Mammoth and the Golden Knights tonight.
Apparently Sean Dursey back in a regular sweater at practice today. I don't know if that means he's available, but I would imagine Sean Dursey's getting closer. I'm going to be at the game on Saturday against the Rangers.
All right, stay tuned.
Go find Nick.
We've got more. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's another battle for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone has it covered. The Aggies head to California for a chance to get bowl eligible against Fresno State. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Let's lock in.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Want to remind you to join Hanson Scotty G coming up tomorrow at RGS Exteriors from noon to 3, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. RGS Exteriors.
Do you think Kansas State's going to bounce back?
Probably not against Utah
No,
on the road,
I don't mean
would
this
guess.
weekend or next weekend. Do you think this is just what happened to Utah last year, where Utah was, 5-7 to end the season, and Kansas State just had a bad year randomly? Or do you think the shift in how money is spent and Texas Tech being good and some of these changes around them is going to maybe lower them a tier, drop them a tier compared to, BYU and Texas Tech, who I think financially are going to be the class of the Big 12 going forward, and then there's going to be a few other teams behind them that stay competitive?
Well, let me put it this way. You can win at Kansas State, and I don't think that changes. We can debate on what level that you can win at, which is kind of what you're getting at. But you can win at Kansas State. They've got a ton of fan support. It's the biggest deal in that part of the state.
Yep.
You can, Bill Snyder had a really good thing. Bill Snyder, right? Am I getting that right? Had a really good thing going for a long time. Remember, he retired and then came back and won again. You have to obviously have the right person involved, but I would put them very much in the Utah category in a sense that you can obviously win there, but are they going to have financial advantages over other teams in the conference? Probably not. So you're going to have to do more with less. I think that's true at both Utah and Kansas State in comparison to the programs that you just mentioned. But is that possible? Sure. Absolutely. Would it surprise you if either Kansas State or Utah won the league next year?
No, they're both.
Or the year after that? No, it wouldn't. But they're not. Neither school is going to have a financial advantage over the top of the league. Maybe they have a financial advantage over some of the league, but it's not going to be financial advantage over the top of the league. So you have to rely on that good program. Does that fundamentally change with the new rules? I don't think it does. I think both Kansas State and Utah have been in that category for a long time and have been really good. Utah did not have a financial advantage over the rest of the Pac-12.
No, it did not.
Utah did not have a financial advantage. They had more so in the Mountain West, but they did not necessarily have a financial advantage over, say, Colorado State. It was probably pretty similar. So I don't think that's changed. Utah's finances have probably gotten better, but not that much better.
No.
So
certainly helps this year that they're playing good.
They're still in the category of diamonds in the rough, making great players out of good prospects. I mean, that the rule of that game hasn't changed for either school. And if you're asking me, are both schools capable of continuing that? I think the answer is yes. I think Kansas State can be consistently good because there are the tools there to be that. But are they going to be the dominant team in the league? I doubt it. I don't think Utah's going to be the dominant team.
No, I don't think so either. And you know what the nice thing is? Texas Tech is doing what they're doing this year, and BYU looks fabulous. I still think it's going to be hard for teams to completely pull away from everybody else around them.
Certainly
even
year
with
after year.
Huge advantage, financial advantages.
Yeah.
Because it is still going to come down to injuries in an extraordinarily violent sport. And I do wonder week to week or even just team to team how big the gap is in quarterback play at the college level. There are some, but
gap between what? Team to team or like college and pros?
Team to team. That the best college quarterback, how much better are they than the average college quarterback? Versus the NFL, the best quarterback is way better than the average quarterback. You know, that is a major differentiator that year in and year out, you're going to be competitive. Whereas I don't know if the team with the best quarterback in conference wins every year.
I don't think it does. No, I don't really care who Utah's quarterback is. I don't really care who Kansas State's quarterback is.
So when we talk a lot about the financial aspect of it, it certainly helps, and it'd be nice to have 7 $1 million players on your team versus 3, and that's going to be a realistic, valuation for some of these teams and what they can pay at the top of their roster. But yeah, I kind of
that depends on the program. That absolutely how valuable the quarterback is different everywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that actually kind of flattens the odds a little bit more than it does in the NFL. Like we're saying, where you have your salary cap-ish, and if you have Mahomes or you have Brady in his prime, you're just going to be better than everybody else.
That is not true in college. No.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Did Peyton Manning win the championship? No, they won it the next year with T. Martin, who was. T was fine, I suppose, but was not the quarterback Peyton Manning was.
Yeah.
So, it's part of it. It's absolutely not all of it. It's not all the story in the NFL either, although it is more. It is more of the
story.
What
are the Chiefs? They just lost to throw picks. That's the worst quarterback in the NFL going up against the best.
Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl.
Don't laugh, Christian.
By the way, how would you like to be Brad Johnson or Trent Dilfer when every time somebody brings up a crappy quarterback that won the Super Bowl, that's like you're the poster child for that. Like the poster child for hope of like 90% of the NFL. 90% of the NFL doesn't have a dude at quarterback that is Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, and they're going, yeah, but look at Trent Dilfer.
It's a little bit the Brian Scalabrine thing, right? Brian's he's a longtime Laker. Played for the Celtics a little bit. He played for the Lakers? Maybe he never did.
He played for the Celtics a lot.
Did play for the Celtics a lot. And his argument is always, I'm way closer to LeBron than you are to me. Do you understand that? As a fan who makes fun of me for being in the NBA for a decade or however long Brian Scalabrine played, he's definitely right about that. But it still is still a backhanded compliment, even when he's paying himself. It's like, yeah, you were the worst player in the NBA for a long stretch. So yeah, Trent Dilfer, the worst quarterback ever to win a Super Bowl, and he's going to be like, yeah, I still got the ring, and everyone's going to still say, yeah, but you were the worst one ever.
It actually was a bad thing for him to win. Because
he
now he's not
trade off of it.
Now he's not known as pretty good NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
he's known as
the worst to ever
clown who won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's his legacy.
It's a funny one.
It is a funny one. Clown who won the. It's kind of like the 04 Pistons, the team that didn't have any good players that won the championship.
Yeah. Though I think there's more respect for that in basketball because it's more of a team thing, which obviously the funny thing is so is Trent Dilfer's. But you don't talk about it like, well, what a great team. You say worst quarterback to win.
It's used as a way to compliment his team. That's the other weird part about it.
But really undercut him.
It's undercutting him to compliment it. Like that team was so good. They had a bozo like Trent Dilfer as their quarterback and still won. Warren Sapp was so good.
Yeah.
That Brad Johnson was the quarterback and they still won.
Yeah.
That's his legacy now. I would have rather not won. I'd rather be known.
Anonymous, pretty good quarterback.
Brad Johnson, pretty good quarterback.
5-year starter.
That's it.
Yep.
Instead of clown who won the Super Bowl. All right.
Every team trying to win with a bad quarterback. Like, well, if Brad Johnson.
Hey, Brad Johnson, you see that guy? He could barely move. Could barely throw it.
Bo Nix, I see you as the next Brad Johnson.
You see a guy like Brad Johnson in the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Bo, you have Trent Dilfer written all over you.
We see Dilfer-like future for you. Good team, clown quarterback, uberly successful.
That could be you.
It is funny because if they win the Super Bowl this year, it is exactly that.
Well, that's what Peyton Manning was, and he gets
absolutely was
all sorts of credit.
He absolutely was.
He was
the worst quarterback.
He was so bad.
That might have been the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. That era of Peyton Manning was so brutal.
Way to not jump on that fumble, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Good career move for you. All right, stay tuned. We'll have top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben, Anderson. By the way, I want to say a quick shout-out / apology to Mark.
Okay.
Who reached out on the Snap Talk. He says, because I was saying that Christian thinks I'm old because Blink-182's hit. I was in high school. Mark says, you are no spring chicken, Jake. I guess the fact that I remember Led Zeppelin from college rather than high school makes me impossibly old, right? Absolutely not, Mark. You are a young man. Don't you worry about it. That was my point, is that I was wrong when I was younger and viewed it that way.
Mark, when do you get on Medicare, my man? When does it kick in for you? Is that Medicaid?
Medicaid. Is
Medicaid.
The old
Medicare's
one.
the other one. You wait until you're 65 to retire, or you're going to go to 70 and try and get those extra benefits? Just asking Mark.
I don't know. I think Mark's a young man. I'm sure that decision is way in his future.
I don't know. See, he was listening to Zeppelin in college.
Are you clowning Mark right now?
No, I'm just saying he's old. It's not a clown thing.
I like you, Mark. Ben doesn't.
I like you, Mark.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, we touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, but we've got all eyes in the Big 12 on BYU at Cincinnati.
Really, who plays in the conference title game likely hinges on that game.
Well, as I've said, I think a strong opportunity for BYU to win this game. I just think they're a lot better than everyone else. I do think we are seeing the cream of the crop really separate itself from the rest of the Big 12. And I think there are 3 good teams. I think there's 1 elite team. And I think BYU and Utah are both really close to each other. And BYU beat them head-to-head, so BYU's better than Utah this year, and I don't think that's crazy to say. But, yeah, I think there is 1 really, really good team in Texas Tech. I think they are everything they were billed to be. And BYU and Utah, and then the rest of these teams I think are going to get squashed. I think the one thing that BYU and Utah and Texas Tech will have is they're really tough. They're really, really tough teams. And I think the rest of the Big 12, as much as we tried to change this narrative or kind of seemed like that narrative was changing, it's a bunch of soft teams. Cincinnati's soft. TCU is soft. Baylor is so soft. And then you look at West Virginia and Central Florida. Maybe Arizona State has a little bit of oomph. Curious to see what Kansas State looks like this weekend, but I think coming into Rice-Eccles has been a buzzsaw for everybody else, so I think they're going to run into that same problem. So I think that's what is the differentiator between the top teams, those 3 that I mentioned, and everybody else in the Big 12. And then the advantage that Texas Tech has is they just have a little bit more talent all over the field. And they paid for it. That's the goal now. If you can pay for it, you can be better, and Texas Tech has paid for it.
I don't think Texas Tech is unbeatable, and I certainly don't think BYU is unbeatable. Cincinnati has a quarterback, and they're getting a receiver back, and they're starting running back. And if BYU has a leaky defense, which we've seen at times this year, then it could be interesting for them. So I think their offense needs to move the ball because that's what they're going to have to do if they make the conference title game. But I by no means think that BYU is going to automatically beat Cincinnati. I didn't think Utah was going to automatically beat Cincinnati, and it went the way that it did, but Cincinnati's good enough to beat anybody in the league.
I disagree. And when was the last time BYU's defense looked leaky at this point?
Well, Iowa State, it looks super
maybe the
leaky.
First half against Iowa State?
Yeah, it looked super leaky against Iowa State.
2 quarters on the road against Iowa State, including obviously the big touchdown right out of the gate from Iowa State, which was, most of their points. In the first half, they 17 points, so not exactly. But they weren't against Utah. They gave up 27 points in double overtime to Arizona. That's fine. 27, holding a team under 30 is good, knowing that they have to score to extend overtime to get to double overtime.
I don't count that game for the offense or the defense for that matter. That game was so weird. You remember the weather?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much you can take from that game.
I disagree that BYU has a leaky
They have
defense.
had a leaky defense.
They haven't given up 30 this year. Given up 30.
Well, if Cincinnati moves it, and that's an if.
Well, Cincinnati would be the first.
If TCU moved it, they would have stood a better chance. And
or
they did
Utah,
not.
or
so,
yeah.
Yeah,
or
obviously it's an if. But Cincinnati's quarterback is capable.
Maybe. Taking BYU 25 points. BYU by 25. I wish it was a better game. I do. I wish I could sell that this was a better game. It's not. Cincinnati stinks. They're amongst the rest of the Big 12, which I've argued stinks all year. And I think they do stink. I think Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech are really good. I'm glad they all got to play each other.
What's next?
Number 2, we've got a tale of two Rasputins in Dallas.
I spent half my day reading Tim McMahon's article at ESPN.com yesterday. I just joke because it was really long, but it appeared to be very well sourced, Ben. However, I am often at least somewhat skeptical when it comes to anonymous sourcing. But anyway, I thought it was well done.
Well, it's worth noting that after Nico Harrison traded Luka, he called Tim McMahon to explain why he traded him. So that is the type of weight he carries in Dallas right now for sure. And Tim is really good at his job, you know. So he had all of this stuff he's talking to is probably directly from the people involved.
It reads that way, but I don't know because nobody really put their name on it. So I'm not sure. But it was a good read, and it was an explanation of some things that have been out there. And it starts off with an anecdote about the night the team was sold, which is kind of funny, where Mark Cuban walked around the game telling media, team, everybody, what was his line? The only difference is my pocketbook. Everything else stays the same.
Mark had what he calls a handshake agreement that he would basically stay in on the same role, the governor of the team.
And the Adelsons would just stay in Vegas or something.
They would be the money, and he would be the face.
Yep.
And while they had a handshake agreement, none of that happened.
Well, that's what Mark told everybody. And that's actually key because Patrick Dumont showed up the next day and talked to the team, and he said, I'm running stuff, and Mark's cute, but there's a new sheriff in town. So Mark told everybody he was still going to be in charge. That's not exactly what Patrick Dumont said.
Right.
No. Say it the other way again.
Dumont.
I liked it.
He's one of the three musketeers.
Patrick Dumont. That's what he said. So anyway, from there, all of a sudden, Ben, there was a battle of the Rasputins. Mark Cuban went from owner to potential Rasputin, and Nico Harrison wanted to be the new Rasputin for the new owner, who, by the way, reads in this piece like he has no idea what he's doing. Or at least that's the impression that I came away with. One of the Ishbia types. He was like, I'm going to be making decisions now, and then just has no clue what they're doing. And so the whole story is really about a purse fight over who Patrick Dumont is going to listen to.
Yeah.
And Nico throws Mark Cuban under the bus for losing Jalen Brunson and then making a trade for Christian Wood, who apparently Jason Kidd didn't want, and Nico didn't want to do it.
And it didn't work out at all.
But Mark was like, these are the moves for us. And the Nico perspective is that Mark would come in and out of the picture. And 1 week he cared and wanted to do everything, and 1 week he didn't. So Nico goes up to Patrick Dumont and says, Mark has no idea what he's doing. Listen to me. Let's do what I want to do for a little bit. And then he made those trades for Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. And then Dallas goes to the finals. And so Nico, at this point, completely pushes Mark Cuban out of the room to the point where Mark is just, how did Tim describe it? A glorified season ticket holder. Can't even get Dumont to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Because Nico is the official Rasputin. Then comes the Luka Doncic trade, Ben, where Nico comes to Patrick and says, we're doing this. We got to do it in the middle of the night. We got to do it in total secret or it's not going to happen. And Dumont now at this point has total faith in Grima Wormtongue. He's like, yes, I will do this disastrous move because I don't have a better angel telling me Nico once lost Steph Curry from Nike because he's an idiot.
By the way, very strange that right after Nico got fired and left, Steph left Under Armour and is wearing Nikes right away. Like,
he's going to be a Jordan guy, right?
I'm sure it's a coincidence. I'm sure it's a coincidence, but I really thought that was a funny thing to be like, I'm going to go back to Nike now after Nico gets fired and everyone sees what a clown he is publicly. That's the moment I'm leaving Under Armour.
I didn't even put those pieces together. That's
brilliant.
I hope it's related.
It's very funny. Anyways, neither here nor there.
I hope it's related. So then Dumont doesn't know any better, and he backs Nico throughout all the fallout from the Luka Doncic trade. Mark Cuban says he wasn't consulted in any way, shape, or form, that he found out about it through, I don't know, some random phone call. Mm-hmm. Now, Ben, what happens? Nico gets booed, and the fire Nico chants rain down, and he talks to the kid at the game. Mm-hmm. And then he fires Nico. And the conclusion of the ESPN article, of course, Ben, is Mark Cuban firmly takes his place at the side of Patrick Dumont as the Rasputin he now is. And apparently Mark's say in the building is relevant again.
Is back again.
Is back again.
We will see how that works out. Patrick Dumont has done some weird stuff. Now, look, I'm actually a little bit mixed on this. I think the headline sounds worse than it actually is. Patrick Dumont is saying that he wants to have final say on when Anthony Davis can actually return to the court.
Oh, that was a weird subplot in there that I almost brushed over.
So this is an interesting thing. Again, this is the owner saying, I want to have final say of when my guys actually return to the court. And while, again, that's going to raise red flags a la, who is it, Dable for the Giants saying, like, you're going to go play whether you have a concussion or not. I think this is the opposite of that. I think Nico Harrison, thinking his job was at risk, which clearly it was, wanted Anthony Davis back on the court as quickly as possible. Yep. And Dumont says, we're not looking to keep your job alive. We're looking for the overall health of the franchise. And if keeping Anthony Davis out for another week or two is beneficial for him and the franchise long term, we're not going to let you make that choice.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was the final straw, was that little incident. And did you read in there that Anthony Davis and his personal training staff were pushing for his return, whereas Dumont actually said, no, the medical staff for the Mavericks think that this could lead to an Achilles tear. So
take your time.
Well, at very least, if I were giving Anthony Davis advice, get rid of your training people.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Your training people are pushing you back to save the GM? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And
again,
the team, for once, is the one putting the brakes on?
He's got a calf strain, which is what Tyrese Halliburton had last year.
I don't think the owner is going to have to approve everybody's return to the floor, but I think what he was saying is we're re-empowering our medical staff.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to let Nico and Anthony Davis's cousin or something decide if he's going to play or not. Imagine if he came back and ripped his ACL or his Achilles.
I think Mark Cuban has been obviously great for the Mavericks. I will be curious if he still has it and what role he plays and actually how much Patrick Dumont wants to have here. Again, one of the things you and I have talked about, Christian would never know this. The Dallas Mavericks were the current Sacramento Kings of the NBA throughout my entire childhood. Forever. The 80s and 90s, they were the biggest joke in the NBA. They couldn't put one foot in front of the other. And if they did something right, they immediately did two or three things wrong to undo that work, which is what the Kings do now. They are not guaranteed success just because they went from Dirk to Luka, and now they have Cooper Flagg, and you hope Cooper Flagg turns into one of those guys if you're in Dallas, but it is not guaranteed that they belong atop the NBA, which is generally where they have huddled over the last 20 years.
Man, if I am Dumont, I'm doing what the new ownership did in Denver, and that's just canning both of them.
Yeah, everybody's
We've got a problem inside the front office between the coach and the GM. They're both terrible. Fire them both, please. And you can fire Mark Cuban now. How awesome would that be?
Everybody's out.
You're on Shark Tank. Well, guess what? You're no longer a part of the Mavericks inner circle. Goodbye.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of fulfilling.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
Number 3, the Utah Mammoth have played the most road games in the NHL. They're back in Salt Lake City for a 4-game homestand starting tonight against the Knights.
As Nick Olczyk has said, there's an abbreviated schedule right now because the Olympics are coming up, and now NHL players are going to be able to leave to go play in the Olympics during this break. So it's going to push games earlier in the season to be more conjunct. And then as a result of what's happened at the Delta Center, they had to start a little bit later because there were some concerts and things still scheduled. And they're balancing a schedule with the Jazz. So, yes, they've been forced to play some early road games. I would imagine that's all tied together, which has not been necessarily beneficial for them. So returning home, Delta Center, they've got a mini homestand here, including Vegas, New York coming up on Saturday. See if they can get back in the win column.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. The nice part about these things is it all balances itself out based on whatever reason. I would be interested in reading the book of scheduling stories in the NBA, NHL, or I mean, it's probably less prevalent in baseball and hockey, but like San Antonio, the team has to be on the road for 2 weeks because of the Texas State Rodeo or whatever it is. Like the Lakers have to be on the road for 2 weeks around the Oscars? No, not the Is it the Oscars?
It was something like that. I can't remember what
Or
it
the
was,
Grammys
but
or something
that?
along something along those lines. I mean, what, doTERRA bullies the Jazz out of the building? Mm-hmm. The Mouse, Disney on Ice bullies the Jazz out of the building, and the Mammoth for that matter.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what's the most
Trans-Siberian Orchestra. They kicked the Jazz out for 2 months leading up to Christmas.
I'd be curious to see what the most unique one is. You know, does Oklahoma City have to be on the road because of the state pie eating contest or something?
Sure, yeah. Famously.
I mean, you can't bump the pie eating contest. It's Oklahoma City. This is what we got.
Yeah.
I have,
It's got to be the rodeo. Texas road trip is notorious. The Spurs road trip.
Yeah, it's long.
It's long. It's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's long.
Do it every year.
All right, Christian, how do you pronounce this, Christian? Rauh. Christian Rauh, host of Locked On Kansas State, is going to join the show next. We'll talk about what Kansas State's bringing to town.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
Kyle Whittingham and the Utes return home for a battle against Kansas State. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk some Kansas State football, getting ready for the Utes in Kansas State this weekend. Joining us now, host of Locked On Kansas State, Christian Rauh, with us here on Jake and Ben. What's going on, Christian?
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me on. Really excited about this game. It should be a good one for Utah fans, that's for sure.
So I guess that puts into place where you think Kansas State is coming into this. I keep watching and waiting for Kansas State to be, the big spoiler in the Big 12 because of how much hype there was and excitement going into this season, and a thought that they were going to be one of the true contenders. And they'll get a little momentum, and then it seems to get dashed. And they did not play well against Oklahoma State, despite the fact that they had won, 2 of their 3 before that. So where is Kansas State as a program heading into this game this weekend?
Yeah, the program full of peaks and valleys. There's no doubt about that, and I'm right there with you. I've been waiting for them to play spoiler as well. But this Big 12 conference is just such a dog-eat-dog conference with the parity from top to bottom. You never know who's going to win every single week, and I think Kansas State has a chance to play spoiler, but when you look at this program, it's just they've fallen flat this season. Season expectations was being a Big 12 contender. I had them as a potential 10-2 team, something that maybe potentially Utah will find themselves at the end of the season. And injuries, luck, and just really the lack of what they thought the talent might be on this squad just didn't show up. There was a lot of issues with this squad, and I think they're starting to get a taste of what this new NIL and transfer portal era really is in the Midwest.
Give me the Avery Johnson story, because I did not, he's a great player. I did not anticipate the headline of his season this year being about his dad punching his brother. So tell me, why hasn't it been a special year for him?
Yeah, the Dublin curse takes a whole different kind of track this year, right? With that happening, no, honestly,
a little bit. No, in all seriousness, it just hasn't landed.
100%, and something landed there, but not that. Well, in the case of Avery Johnson, I believe he's a great dual threat quarterback. I believe he has the talent and the caliber to do it. But this year, I think the surrounding talent around him just wasn't good enough. And obviously with the departure of Dylan Edwards doesn't help. And he never played a single offensive snap in that Week 0 game against Iowa State in Dublin. And the coaches were really adamant in the postgame to say how much they really focused on their play calling to be surrounded around Dylan Edwards. And it was just something that they could not surpass the rest of the season. I believe Avery Johnson has the tools to be a great quarterback and maybe potentially be a quarterback that plays on Sundays and some days. But overall, I just don't think he has the talent surrounded him this season. Wide receivers injured. Wide receivers have been an issue for him his entire collegiate career when it comes to drops and just the amount of sheer talent on there. And then on the offensive line side this year, they did a great job in the pass blocking department, but the run block is not there, and he needs complementary football, and he just didn't get that this year.
Trying to think back to Utah's season last year, and it just felt like a lost year entirely, and they only finished with 5 wins and didn't make a bowl game. And I would think Kansas State, regardless of what happens this weekend, is still going to win the last week of the season and go to a bowl game. Does this just feel like a lost year? Does it feel like a bad omen of things to come? Or does it feel like something different entirely?
I think you can look at it from both edges of the glass here. I think you can see it as obviously being one of the worst years under the Chris Kleiman era. Even if they win out and go 7-5, this will be their worst season under Chris Kleiman if you take away the COVID year. But then if you look on the bright side, a 7-5 record is the worst year you've had under Chris Kleiman, and that's still a good spot compared to what some of the other programs are in the Big 12. When you look at some of the other programs with longer tenured coaches, like, for example, before this season started at Oklahoma State. So you can look at it from both edges. Obviously, the amount of income and revenue bringing in from the other in-state school in Kansas, bringing in near $300 million to start recruiting and bringing in other things and be more of a football-minded school does not help in-state recruiting. So long picture, I think this could be maybe a wake-up call for Kansas State.
If it goes Kansas State's way this weekend and they pull the upset, how do they do it? What do they want to accomplish?
Oh, man, it's got to be stopping the run. And I think that's just the easiest way to say it. Utah's second best in the country in stopping the run. That's usually a category when you're on the podium for running offenses. That's usually reserved for service academies, right? And that's finding some way to do that this year. Utah's just been absolutely incredible. Kansas State has not been great against stopping the run. They're 77th in the country. In doing so, that's not a great number when you're a Power 4 conference and you're sitting there in the middle of the ranks of the country and stopping the run. They've lost a lot of have a lot of injuries to their linebacking core. Austin Romaine, star player for Kansas State's out for the rest of the season. They're going to be having a lot of troubles, I think, in this one. But if they can find a way to slow down the run, maybe force them to pass and get them to have a couple turnovers. Kansas State, before heading into that Texas Tech game a few weeks ago, did lead the country in takeaways. So if they can limit them on the running game, slow them down on the explosive runs, maybe cause a few turnovers, I think I like their chances to stick around with Utah.
What does their summer look like? What big decisions need to be made?
I think the number one decision will be, obviously, if you can find a way for retention. That's something that they worked on last year when they started off 7-1, and then the wheels fell off against Houston towards the end of the season. They wound up only getting to 8 wins on the year. And then I think if you can find a way to get retention, transfer portal, bring some of those star players back, then you ultimately have to look at the coaching staff. I don't think you have to look at the very top of Chris Kleiman. I think he's been a great coach. I think he has the respect of the program and the culture. But I think you might have to make some moves at the coordinator position, especially on the offensive side with Matt Wells.
Matt's a name familiar around here, certainly. I was startled when I saw the stat. Maybe I got to pay closer attention that Kansas State has beaten Kansas 17 times in a row.
That's right. Yeah, the Sunflower Showdown streak, 17 years in a row. Last time Kansas has won that game is 2008.
Wow. Is that more about Kansas State or Kansas, would you say?
Well, I think initially it was about more of just Kansas not being a football club, but they've definitely turned it around in the last couple of years with Lance Leipold bringing it back. And now I believe it's more of Kansas State, the fact that they've really focused on, building their program and finding it to be respectful, being a Big 12 contender year in and year out, despite what's happening this year. I think you have to probably give credit for both teams and both programs for what they're doing, but overall over the last 17 seasons, that's definitely been Kansas State's sweet spot.
Well, thank you, Christian, for jumping on with us. We really appreciate it. Let's hope we get a good one this weekend.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thanks, Christian. Christian Rauh, host of Locked on Kansas State.
I agree with him that it's probably more likely that this is what happened to Utah last year, and not quite with the level of injuries Utah has suffered. But Kansas State certainly has not escaped the injury bug. At least they had their starting quarterback. But the glass half full, glass half empty, which I think a lot of people, myself included, were looking at Utah last year and trying to figure out what was to come, is that whether they go 7-5, which would be winning out, I don't think they're going to beat Utah, 6-6. If that's the worst your program has been, you've still got a very good program. And Utah's disaster year last year, unfathomably poor, was 5-7, which is not uncommon for most programs. So their ability to turn it around quickly with getting a couple of big transfers in really helped Utah, and Kansas State should be able to do some of that.
I would think so. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't.
And you've got your quarterback coming back, and Avery Johnson is still a top half of the league quarterback.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you're asking him to do, but yeah, I get your point.
You can have a good offense with Avery Johnson.
They've done it.
Yeah.
He's done it.
So that's it.
Yeah.
I don't need him to play on Sundays. Great if he does, but that part of it doesn't really matter to me at all.
No, he's proven he can win. He's proven he's competent. There's no doubt. That's why I asked what the story was.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a LeBron type scenario where you blame his teammates.
It's everybody else.
It's everybody else. No, but that may ring true. And they had, I think, been trying to throw him too much, and I don't think he's that.
Agreed.
So it depends on how you use him. But, yeah, more than capable.
I don't think it's a good design against Utah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Utah's had quarterbacks run it all over them before. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it could.
I honestly still think the weakness of this Utah team is when teams can't throw the ball. Baylor in the first half was able to stay in that game because they could open up Utah's defense by throwing the ball, confusing Utah's corners, who are good. They're not great this year. And that opens up some opportunities to get some big runs, as is the design. Teams that want to run on Utah, I don't think are going to have success.
All right, we wrap up the Jake and Ben show. Get you ready for Hanson Scotty G. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's another battle for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone has it covered. The Aggies head to California for a chance to get bowl eligible against Fresno State. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Let's lock in.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
All right, stay tuned.
Jake Scott is the Trent Dilfer of this radio station.
Still,
that's funny.
Still on the radio station.
Shout out to Kevin. Hilarious. This segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. Ben, I want to, let me put it this way. I think for young athletes, it's okay to believe in yourself, but maybe don't believe in yourself too much.
Sure. A little humility.
Well, I've got an example for you. Okay. Did you see this headline? Shilo Sanders is being sued by his former lawyers for $164,000 plus interest.
Mm-hmm.
They represented him in a case where he beat up a guy to the point where he broke his neck. Oh. Bad news. This is back in Texas. The case went to trial. He pled guilty. There was a judgment assessed of nearly $12 million. And Shilo then took out bankruptcy. And then there's been some other stuff. But now his attorneys or the law firm is suing him to get their fees.
Uh-huh.
And I just wonder if this is a case where before Shilo beat this guy up, he thought, I'm going to be a superstar NFL player. I mean, even if I get fined or have to pay this guy off or whatever, it's just going to be a drop in the bucket. Meanwhile, he's a free agent after being cut by the Bucs.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, thinking he was going to go on to superstardom may have worked against him because now he's bankrupt and owes $200,000.
Certainly believe in betting on yourself within reason. You do need to have confidence that you belong and you can go out there and achieve things that maybe other people around you don't think you're capable of doing. But Shilo should have had some understanding that he was not going to have a life in football to make most of his money. You know who I really credit a lot? LiAngelo Ball, who absolutely rode the coattails of his brothers. His dad kind of helped him get jobs here and there, and then shifted and said, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself as a rapper. And has actually turned into a somewhat successful musician, no longer trying to play for whatever G League team his brothers are affiliated with the main roster. That's a good shift for him. And Shilo is very much the LiAngelo of the Sanders family, even though Shedeur might be closer than we think. And doesn't know when to stop. Doesn't know when to take his next career move.
It must not take a very smart person to make it in the rap game.
I think there's a lot of different ways to make it.
The only reason I say that, and I mean the only reason, is because if you're dumb enough to steal something in China, then you are not a smart person.
Correct.
So
LiAngelo had some flaws.
I do not think it takes a smart person to make it in rap if he has made it in rap.
There's a lot of dumb people doing a lot of big things.
I don't disagree.
So Shilo, if he's a dumb person, needs to find his next thing. But it's not going to be football. And beating up people is generally never a good idea, unless you're going to be a boxer. But I don't think you should be a boxer either, unless you can fight Jake Paul and get one of those multi-million-dollar Netflix fights.
Dude, look at those sunglasses. You should totally put those in your pocket.
These in my pocket. Isn't your family famous? Doesn't your family have money? Can you afford these sunglasses?
You know you're in China, right? I mean, I would avoid breaking the law in any other country, but that one in particular.
That was a toughie. But yeah, it'd be tough. You may be the Trent Dilfer of this radio station, but at least you're not the LiAngelo Ball of your family.
Great point. If I go to China, I will keep it on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Mexico a few years ago. You know what I did?
Not steal?
Kept it on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
You know where I didn't want to end up?
Mexican prison.
Certainly not. Let alone Chinese prison, where the president of the dang United States has to get you out.
Not really an ally either.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got talking about the Ball family.
Well, loser younger brothers.
Okay.
Hey, Shador's making his first start this week, though.
Against the Raiders.
It's going to be a hell of a game, really.
Yeah, I think this between Genty and Shador, we're going to see who wins Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. It's going to be decided this weekend. Hey, he hit the over. A lot of people over/under. One game started for Shador, and he's going to hit it. So,
by the way,
awful in game one. Now rookies look awful in game one. I'm not going to sink him for that. We'll see. It's going to draw some eyeballs.
Sometimes there's those storylines that let you know that some members of the media are shilling and not necessarily delivering a honest opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that there were a select few people out there who were saying that Shador was treated unfairly because he was not given reps with the starting team before last week's game? Did you see the cavalcade of like career backup quarterbacks who came out and said,
yeah, that's not a thing.
Yeah, we don't get reps with the starting.
Why would we?
That's the starting quarterback gets the reps with us. But like, there were these 3 or 4 big names who were like, "It's an injustice."
Yeah,
Shador didn't have reps with the starting.
How could you expect
and it's
him
like,
to be ready?
It's like he's the backup quarterback.
Yeah,
they don't get reps with the starting team.
Fourth string. He started the year as fourth string.
He was
practice squad.
But they were complaining about specifically last week where he was the backup quarterback.
Right.
And they were saying he failed because he was not properly prepared by the coaching staff because he didn't have reps with the first team in practice. So anyone saying that, you can discredit their opinion for now on because they're shilling for a player or family. Or
You'll
whatever.
have to forgive me because I stopped paying attention to Browns football 21 years ago. Had Dylan Gabriel started before that?
Mm-hmm.
He had started a few games before this.
Yes.
Yeah, he had been starting.
Yes.
Still, you have to get Dylan Gabriel, the other rookie quarterback on the team, as many reps as possible. If he's the guy who's going to be starting, for him, more than a Joe Flacco who's 40 years old and has started,
But even
180 games in his career, 200 games in his career, Dylan Gabriel literally needs every snap. Shador doesn't deserve that snap.
Peyton Manning took every snap with the
Joe Flacco was taking every snap.
Do you know why? Because all these geezers think they're going to live forever. So are they going to give the backup quarterback the snaps with the number one team? Absolutely not. If you want to think of it that way.
Right. Christian doesn't realize this. Christian's mic is actually unplugged. So he talks, and he thinks he's coming over the air, and he's just talking to himself in a room, but he thinks people can hear him.
Exactly.
Because we're not giving Christian reps.
No,
we're Flacco and Manning.
Yeah.
And I mean like Broncos Manning. And Bengals Flacco.
Yeah.
This is not Super Bowl Indianapolis, Super Bowl Baltimore. No, we're washed, but we're not letting Dylan Gabriel over here, Christian, get reps on this station. Not while we're here taking snaps. So we cut the microphone cord under the table. He can't see it. He's just talking into a tin can over there.
But I love that all these career backup quarterbacks are like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
I've had to go in games without reps with the number one team.
I don't always agree with.
It's called being a backup.
I don't agree with everything former athletes say as media members. They get certain things wrong. There are certain things about our job that I don't think they understand that they are critical of. I do love this type of stuff. When a reporter or somebody tries to say, like, this is not fair or this is not how it should have been, and every player in that position is like, this is always how it's been. You're making something up right now because it has nothing to do with what you're saying. I always support that from former players. So a tip of the cap to Trent Dilfer, all the backups. Dilfer started, but yeah, every other backup.
Super Bowl champion, Trent Dilfer.
Tyler Huntley doesn't get to be mad when he doesn't get reps over Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
and then the backup.
And there's a chance he goes into the game without those reps. Yeah, it's happened to him probably half a dozen times in his career.
If Zach Wilson suits up in Miami, he doesn't get to be mad that he didn't get reps over Tua. Be like, well, I didn't play good. I didn't get to play with the starters. Like, you're the backup.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So any media person out there that was shoveling that, you know exactly where it's coming from.
Yep, agreed.
And by the way, they don't do Shedeur any favors when they do that, by the way.
Correct. Well, now he's getting all the reps this week, and it's going to be like, okay, so what was the answer? He got all the reps this week. Why wasn't he any good this week?
Max Crosby's going to put him 3 feet deep into the turf, and they're going to go, hey, the number one reps didn't seem to help you this week.
Again, I did not watch that Browns game. I did see the highlights of Shedeur, and it was just exactly the same stuff at Colorado that you can get away with when you can run around and just throw the ball. You can run around in the backfield forever because you're a better athlete than everybody. And you can just throw the ball up and Travis Hunter or the other wide receiver can bail you out. You try and turn and change directions in the backfield, and there's 2 other guys there. Yeah. It's just they multiply in the backfield when you hold on to the ball as long as he does. And, yeah, he's going to have to really learn how to just simplify his game and get it out.
All right, stay tuned. Hanson, Scotty G are coming up next. Jake and Ben,
Thanks,
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.